Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely wild. We're going to look at how ancient Japanese ninja scrolls hold the absolute key to modern network defense. I know, it sounds a little crazy, but stick with me here, because this fascinating breakdown is going to change how you look at cybersecurity forever. Okay, let's dive into this. What can a 400-year-old ninja scroll actually teach us about modern cybersecurity? It's a highly provocative question, isn't it? We usually think of cybersecurity as this uniquely modern problem, a discipline born entirely in the internet age. But the truth is, human conflict, espionage, and defense, they are as old as civilization itself.
It's a literal collision of the ancient and modern worlds. Picture a cyber ninja bridging the gap between the physical and the digital. Throughout this explainer, we're going to build a parallel narrative. We're going to look at the physical, heavily fortified castles of medieval Japan and show you exactly how they directly mirror the virtual enterprise networks we defend today.
Section 1. History's First APT. And this brilliantly illustrates our starting point. To really grasp the reality of the shinobi, we kind of have to toss out those Hollywood myths of magic and smoke bombs. We need to look at the hard, military reality. In ancient times, the shinobi was the ultimate covert agent. In modern terms, they're exactly what we'd call an advanced persistent threat, or APT. They were literally history's first APT. They didn't just do a quick smash and grab. They lingered, they learned, and they persisted. And those formidable castles they targeted? Well, those are your enterprise networks.
There's this incredible poetic quote from the Banshin Shukai, which is a recently declassified 17th century ninja manual. It says, "The deepest principle of ninjutsu is to avoid where the enemy is attentive and strike where he is negligent." This perfectly demonstrates that ninjas were not just your average foot soldiers. They were highly calculating information warfare specialists. Their whole existence was about finding the vulnerabilities, the blind spots of physical fortresses.
Section 2. Think like a ninja.
To defend our modern castles, we've got to move away from that tired cliché of just thinking like a hacker. We need to adopt a ninja's discipline instead. We need to understand the psychological framework required to execute true cybersecurity. We have to embrace the concept of kokoro, which beautifully translates to the heart under an iron blade. A shinobi had to have the correct mind. That means using absolute mindfulness as a literal form of self-defense. It means having the patience of a fox. Think about it. If a shinobi hits a heavily guarded roadblock, they don't foolishly try to force their way through. Actually, they might walk miles out of their way just to bypass it entirely. And that exact patience and adaptability, that is exactly what a modern threat intelligence professional needs to outsmart adversaries today.
Section 3. Mapping castles and networks.
So the crucial point is, how did they actually plan these attacks and defenses? The foundation of everything we're talking about today relies on the critical importance of mapping your defenses. The ancient wisdom of the Yoshimori Hyakushu poems tells us, with these maps, the general can consider how to defend and attack a castle. This proves that exhaustive intelligence collection was the absolute foundation of all ninja operations. You simply cannot defend a perimeter, or attack one for that matter, if you don't possess a meticulously accurate map of the battlefield.
Just think about the sheer level of physical detail a shinobi had to record on their maps. We're talking about all the entrances and the specific mechanisms of their locks. The approaching roads, are they dirt or stone? Curved or flat? They mapped the room layouts, and get this, they even noted which specific floorboards were squeaky. They tracked the inhabitants' daily routines, the moat depths, the wall heights. They knew the castle intimately. And this sets up a direct, undeniable parallel for how we absolutely must approach mapping our own network topology.
Section 4. The modern map problem.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that right now, in cyberspace, contemporary defenders are actively losing the map-making war to cyber attackers. We need to understand why that's happening. It often starts with these dangerously useless fuzzy IT diagrams. You see these all the time, a simplified, highly abstract network map. You know the ones. You've got a couple of clouds for the internet, a generic brick wall for a firewall, maybe some vague lines connecting to different floors. And sure, while it might help an IT guy plug in a printer, it lacks all the context and granular detail needed to actually defend against a persistent, targeted threat. Now immediately contrast that kind of abstract doodle with what a true hacker and an elite defender actually needs.
Look at the exhaustive detail documented when it's done right. We're talking specific interface types, exact IP and subnet addresses, operating system versions, running services, and even specific CVEs, those known common vulnerability exploits listed right on the nodes themselves, distinct shapes representing specific devices. Now that is a map you can use to wage a war.
So why don't more organizations have maps like that? Well, because of the chaotic nature of cyberspace. Modern networks practically auto-configure themselves. Dynamic routing constantly alters the paths data takes. It's like navigating a spontaneously shifting city, where the routers are basically navigation officials, constantly updating their clipboards with new routes every single second. Because the landscape shifts so rapidly, it takes a massive manual effort by specialized professionals just to maintain map accuracy. It's honestly so hard that many defenders simply give up.
Section 5, Stealth and Passive Reconnaissance. But here's the thing, adversaries never give up. So, how do you meticulously map a target when the enemy is actively watching you from the castle walls? Shinobi understood that loitering near a castle with a measuring stick would get them executed instantly. So, they perfected the art of disguising their mapping efforts in plain sight, especially during times of peace when the enemy's guard was slightly lowered but still very much active.
They used an ingenious technique called Uramitsu no Jutsu. This is the ninja art of estimating distance using familiar objects for scale, entirely without tipping off the enemy. Here's my absolute favorite historical anecdote. A shinobi would lie down on the grass, pretending to just take a lazy nap under a tree. But secretly, they were pointing their feet toward the castle and using the known dimensions of their own feet, combined with a little trigonometry, to calculate the exact distance and height of the castle wall. They were literally mapping the fortress while pretending to sleep.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our digital reality. Modern attackers perfectly recreate Uremi Mitsuno no Jutsu every single day through passive network mapping. They map the target from the outside without ever setting off a single alarm or touching the network directly.
Just think about how hackers glean a network's layout incredibly stealthily. They'll sniff packets in promiscuous mode, capturing and inspecting traffic without interacting with it. They'll scrape third-party IT troubleshooting forums. Why? Because they're looking for your network admins accidentally posting router configuration errors. They'll even analyze your company's public job postings. Think about it. If you're hiring an admin with experience in a specific FortiGate firewall, the attacker now knows exactly what hardware defends your perimeter. They can even measure communication delays to detect if a satellite hop exists in your network. It's entirely invisible reconnaissance.
We've covered an incredible journey today, from 17th century Japan all the way to modern enterprise networks. And I want to leave you with this highly provocative question to consider for your own organization. Are you relying on fuzzy, abstract maps to give a false sense of security? Or are you defending your walls with the absolute, exhaustive precision of a shinobi? It might just be time to evaluate your castle defenses. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep thinking like a ninja.